resources, inspiring interviews, business practices, and practical advice to take your art career to the next level. Join Sergio Gomez in today's Artist Next Level and get ready to take control of your career.
Well, hello, my next level friend. Welcome to a new episode of the Artist Next Level podcast. I am very happy, very excited that you decided to join me today. Well, today I don't have a guest here to talk to. Rather, it's going to be a conversation just between the two of us, between you and me. I have some things to share with you, and I'm super excited. This episode actually is dedicated to all emerging artists. So if you're an emerging artist, you are in for a treat. That's something that I've been thinking about lately. So I'm super happy about that. But before I start talking about it, I hope that you have checked out the recent episodes that I had here in the podcast. They've been so good. Have had so many great, responses from people. So you have to check them out. If you have missed the last few episodes, make sure you go back and you check them out because they are worth your time. Make sure you don't miss a single of them. And also, if they're good also for you, please share them with a friend. That's something that will make me super excited, super happy. Something really strange happened this week, as I was preparing for today's episode. And I always go and check the statistics, see how things looking. And I realized that, as I was checking and preparing, that the podcast here, the Art Next Level podcast, was not coming up in iTunes, which was so strange, so weird. That not to see this podcast in the iTunes listing. So I did a search and nothing came out as well. So that was really strange. So I went in, I had to log in into my account in iTunes and check it out. And it turns out that a couple of days ago, iTunes decided to take down this podcast. So it was gone for a couple of days. And the reason is, iTunes, or Apple, I should say, Apple had made some updates to the way things had to be configured in the podcast. And since I've been doing this podcast for now about 4 or 5 years, there's over 140 something episodes already in this podcast. So, some of the older episodes were not up to date with the new way in which Apple wanted to have all the podcasts kind of structured, all the tagging and the titles and the descriptions and the episodes. Now they have a newer way in which those things had to be categorized when you upload an episode to iTunes. So all of a sudden, I had no podcast in the iTunes platform. The funny thing is that it was in my phone. I could still see it on my phone. So I guess everyone that had it on their phones, it was still there. But for some reason, new people could not find it. So I had to go through all the episodes in the archive one by one, updating all the tags, updating all the descriptions, updating all the titles until I got them all done. Took me a few hours, and then finally was able to resend it to Apple for review. They approved it, and now we're all good, my friends. So we are back here in iTunes and Apple iTunes, and that was pretty awesome. But quite a bit of a scare, when you have 5 years archived of episodes and all of a sudden they disappear from the number one platform that people listen to and that people find this podcast. It just kind of got me thinking about that. But anyway, happy to be here once again. And like I said, today I want to share with you, some ideas about the emerging artists, because I've been thinking a lot about that lately. Through the messages that I get through email, particularly through Instagram, as I get to meet more and more people through Instagram and have conversations through there and private messaging and so on. I've been chatting with a lot of emerging artists from around the world, not only here from the United States, but, artists who just hit me up and they see me there and they send me messages and so on. And I was thinking the other day, what would I do differently if I was an emerging artist today? If I was an emerging artist in the world today, what sort of things would I be doing? Knowing everything that I know today, knowing everything that, I have done and I understand about the world today, what would I do if I was an emerging artist? Now, I've been doing art in my art career, for many years now. It's been over 20 years. And so a lot of things have changed. When I became an artist, when I started my own art career, it was a completely different world. There was no social media. Internet was still early on. Email was kind of going strong, but it was the only thing around. I remember I purchased my first domain. It was called virtualartist.com. I purchased it. I didn't even know what to do with it. I started taking some HTML lessons. I kind of taught myself how to do it. I put my first website. And again, some 20 years ago, fairly early web 1.0. And, it was a totally different thing. So, back then, to be an emerging artist and to be seen and remembered, you really had to do a lot of things like the old-fashioned way, which was, and again, this will date me and probably all of you guys who are about my age or older, you'll remember those days where, an artwork was finished, then you had to go get some film, get the lighting right, then shoot some slides in different apertures or things like that to get the right, the exposure of the film. Then you had to take that, send that out to get processed and developed. Then you would get those back, and then you would check them and test them. And maybe there were a few bad ones, maybe some few were good ones. And then out of those good ones, if you wanted to make more, you had to send them out to get reproduced or reshot again. Then you had to take like this little tiny pencil or marker to put all the information on the slides, and then find galleries that you can send them to, or make appointments and go and show them and send those little stupid slides. Or if you were applying for a show, they would say send up to 3 slides with all this information, and everybody wanted kind of like the format on how to write the information on the slide quite different. Some of them wanted the title on the side, some of them at the bottom. I remember, all those things. It was really, a tedious job to be doing that as an emerging artist. And also, I remember printing postcards and sending them out to galleries and to people. And it was a lot of hand-to-hand combat in that way. How much the world has changed in 20 years. So I was thinking about that today. If I was an emerging artist today, knowing everything that I know now, what would I do differently? And I think this will make a really great conversation, for today in this podcast. Because I think, so one of the things that I would do for sure, 100%, if I was an emerging artist today, so if you're an emerging artist, listen up, because this might be helpful. If I was an emerging artist today, first thing I would do is master social media. 100% master social media, which is very different to being in social media. Everybody's in social media today. I think every artist is in social media in one way or another, maybe some in Facebook or on Instagram or LinkedIn or some things like that. But there's a difference between being there and being good at it. And it's also a difference between being good at it and mastering it. And that's what the first thing I would do. I would invest in learning and being the best at it. And that's something that now, I do, and that's something that I have invested myself into that. And I have, taken courses and getting good at and, getting coaches on that. And it has helped me a lot. And that's something, I'm teaching many of these strategies to the artists in my community. But if I was an emerging artist today, that's one of the first things I would do. Really, really get good at mastering social media, understanding the differences, the nuances between Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram and Twitter, how to use each one of them, hashtag research and all these kinds of things that do take time. Here's the thing, right? Artists today complain that, Sergio, all those things take time and it takes time in my studio. And of course it takes time, all those things do take time. They will always take time. 20 years ago, what took time was to, get all that film developed and processed and getting it back and writing down all those informations on those little slides and put them in envelopes and sending them out, going to the mailbox. And things did take time back then. Things do take time today, just in a different form, in a different way. It's not that now it's worse. I think it's actually today is better. There's all this digital way of working that saves so much time, is more efficient, less redundant, and it's just a lot better. But the issue of time, things take time. So if I was an emerging artist today, one of the first things I would do is really invest in learning about social media. Why? Because in order to be remembered, you had to be seen, right? And in order to be seen, you had to be out there. You had to be out there, and in two ways. You had to be out there in physical, right, form as much as you can. Go to openings, go to events, and so on, and also in the digital world, in social media, right? So we had to remember those. Both are very important. I was actually talking to another artist friend of mine this week about one of my recent solo shows that I just had, and how this opportunity, came about after I had known the gallery director for about 3 years. And so, it just how long it took, right, for me to get a show there. And that's what happens, right? But it's just being there and showing up and participating and being part of the community, that keeps me visible, right? Keeps that visibility going. If you are visible, you are remembered. If you are invisible, you are forgotten. That's the way it is. And so we live in a world in which you have to be visible to be remembered. And I was telling my friend, like, sometimes, artists kind of go to a place or a gallery they may be interested. They ask, if they get a no, then they stop showing up. They no longer stop showing up, or they only go to a place when they want to get something, but then they disappear if they don't get it right away, or they ask too soon. And that's a problem. You have to be persistent. You have to be there. You have to become part of the community. You have to wait for your turn many times, right? Sometimes you want to push ourselves and push ourselves into the door, but sometimes it's not the time. It's not the time yet. You have to wait for the time when it's right, when the opportunity comes in. Then you are ready to jump into the opportunity, right? When you see that the pastures are green, then go and walk right in it. So that just happens with time. That just happens with giving yourself plenty of time to be there, to be seen, to be remembered. And in the social media world, now that becomes also another way in which you can do it, where before, if you lived outside of the city, of any big city, it was really hard for artists because there was no other way to be connected with the community. I mean, the only way was to show up physically. There was no social media. Now, in today's world, there's a huge advantage, which is you have social media. So if I was an emerging artist today in 2019, I would, master it, and so that I could be seen, and I could be remembered, and I could be part of a community, right? An online community. Here's another thing that sometimes kind of bothers me, that artists want to be, followed. They want to other people to comment on their posts. They want other people to engage with them, but they never do engage with other people. So they just want everybody to do to them what they are not doing to others. And so that doesn't work that way, right? Community is a two-way street where you have to be engaged with the person on the other side, not only when it's about you, but also when it is about them, right? Celebrating with them, commenting on the things that they are doing. And that's something that you can do very easily in social media. If every day you could spend a few minutes and go in social media, not just to post, but also to comment on other people's posts and to, celebrate what other people are doing, then you become slowly part of their community. It's something that I try to do, every day as I go into Instagram or Facebook, is not only to go there and post and answer to people that are engaging with me, but I try to also engage with other people that show up on my feed. As you know, what you see in your feed is what the algorithms believe is what you want to see, right? You don't see everything that everybody's posting, right? And but the things that you see, you can engage on. And if you engage on those, Instagram and Facebook will continue showing you more of this of similar posts by the same people or similar people, and so that you can continue those conversations. And I think that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing because then you can become part of their community. There are so many artists that I have never met in person that I just know by their Instagram name or their Instagram picture because they continue to comment on my posts. They continue, to be part of my community. And I'm very thankful for those. I'm super excited and super thankful that they continue to do that. That means that Instagram continues to show my work, my posts in their feed, and they chosen, to engage with me in a particular way. So I try to do the same. And so if I was an emerging artist today, I would double that up. I would do more of that more often and really be part of other people's communities. You just never know who can give you an opportunity, who, as you continue those conversations, opportunities will come up. Opportunities to show, opportunities to sell work, opportunities to collaborate, opportunities to connect, opportunities to make friends, and so on, to share what's happening and many other things. So that, my friend, if you're an emerging artist, that's something that I would recommend to double up on in 2019. Totally master social media, be good at it, invest in it, so that you can actually make the most out of it. It's one of the coolest things and most effective ways to connect with people. And actually, many of the people that come to this podcast are people that I meet through social media. Either sometimes I reach out to them or sometimes they reach out to me. And, that's how we end up having conversations. And then if I find that it would be a great conversation to share with you all, then, I bring them over and we have these awesome conversations. And that's been the story for the last 5 years with some amazing guests that have come and gone here through this podcast. So that's one of the things I would do. Now, again, if I was an emerging artist today, another thing that I would probably do is really also learn how to organize my business. I would really need to learn how to organize my business, because some of the things that I see today is that as we all are trying to grow our career and so on, is that there are a lot of distractions. There's a lot of distractions. So with so many distractions, it's hard to stay focused. So if I was an emerging artist today, I would sit down and create a plan of action, right? A blueprint, a roadmap of what I want to do in the next 6 months to a year, right? And even 5 years, kind of short-term, mid-term, long-term visual of what is it that I'm going for. Because when you understand what you're going for, then you work towards that, which is one of the biggest problems that I see with emerging artists today who, are kind of lost and having a hard time figuring out whatever kind of seems to be promising, they go there, and that another thing seems to be promising and they go there. And so there's a lot of movement, but there's not a lot of progress. And there's a big difference between the two. You can be super busy running around in circles, or you can move slowly but having a direction that is actually moving you farther and from where you are now and closer to where you want to be. And that's really a good place to be. That's really a place that makes you happy, makes you excited. It's a place that when you wake up in the morning, you're excited for what you have in your to-do list, because you know where you're going. You know the direction that you want to go. And even when the days don't go as good, even when the day is not exactly the best day in the world, but you have a sense of direction, and you know that in the micro, maybe that was the worst day of the year, but in the macro, it doesn't matter, right? Because you are moving forward to a certain direction. And so that's part of organization, part of being productive and being focused on what you want to do. And that's a skill, my friend. That's a skill. If you're an emerging artist, that's a skill that takes time to hone in. It's a skill that takes time to really master as well. I'm talking about today kind of mastery of things. If you're an emerging artist, things that you need to master. One, social media for sure. Another one is really planning, organizing yourself, planning ahead, creating a master plan, a blueprint, a roadmap, a guide, whatever you want to call it, but having a plan of action. And a plan of action includes many things. It's not just a to-do list. It's not a to-do list, but really it's a priority list of things that are most important, and what activities can you do right now that will yield the biggest result tomorrow, right? And that's really what matters most. And when you organize yourself and you get this kind of on paper or on your computer, then you continue to follow, you continue to tweak it and move forward. And this includes things like organizing your studio life, right? Organizing your business life as well. What happens outside the studio, the marketing plans that you have, the offers that you need to make, and those things. You have to organize, plan, and execute. And when you do those things over and over and over, it becomes a common practice. It becomes something that you get used to doing, and it just makes it a lot easier. So again, if I was an emerging artist today, that's definitely something that I would totally be thinking a lot about. Another thing, if I was again an emerging artist today in 2019, I would definitely learn how to sell my art. I would definitely learn how to sell my art. Now, it doesn't matter if you are looking for galleries or if you already have a gallery that represents you, but just learning how to sell your art is a skill that you can continue getting better at. It's a skill that you gain, and it will help you on throughout your career. Because you may have a gallery right now is representing you, or maybe you're looking for gallery representation, but in the meantime, or what if the gallery closes tomorrow? You never know, right? Those things happen all the time. I work with so many artists that I'm coaching that they used to have gallery representation at one point, and now they don't. So now they are, kind of struggling figuring out what to do. So, if I was an emerging artist today, I would learn some basics on marketing and sales, right? Really how to sell your own art, how to market and sell your own art. And pretty much looking at four main things when it comes to sales, right? One is your art, understanding your art, how to talk about your art, how people see your art, how do they describe your art when they see it, right? And kind of speaking their language when you sell your art. The next thing, looking at your audience. Who's your audience? Who's the best audience for the art that you're doing? Where will you find your audience? Once you find your audience, looking at the next thing, which will be how you're going to grab their attention, right? You know what you make, you know the audience that you're looking for, you know where they are. Now, how are you going to grab their attention? Because at the end of the day, everybody's fighting for attention, right? Everybody's trying to promote something to that audience that you want. So how are you going to grab your attention? And then lastly, once you have their attention, what kind of offer are you going to give them, right? What is the offer that you're going to present to them once they turn and look at you? You grab their attention, then what, right? Because it's so easy to grab their attention and then lose it right away. So you have to then be able to provide offers all the time. So, those are the things that you have to learn and master also as an emerging artist, which will serve you really, really well in the future. So these are just a few things, my friends, that I've been really thinking about, and I'm super excited about this. I'm going to actually do, and you guys are the first ones I tell you here through this podcast, I'm going to do a webinar just for this, and I think I might change the title, but I think up to right now to this podcast, I'm gonna call it Emerging Artist Success Blueprint. Again, the Emerging Artist Success Blueprint is going to be a free webinar that I'm planning on doing. I don't have a date just yet. But if you send me an email, I will be happy to send you a link to the webinar as soon as it's up and running. So it's going to be pretty soon. I'm still kind of thinking about exactly what I want to cover. I want to go deep into some of the things that I talk about here with you. And I'm going to bring also Dr. Yaina Gomez to help me out with some of the mindset blocks that need to be overcome as an emerging artist. Again, kind of what's working right now today in the world, right? Thinking about it again, what do emerging artists need to know today that's working, that will give them the best, benefit tomorrow, right? Where can you invest today that will yield the greatest results tomorrow? That's really what it matters. That's what it's really all about. So if you want to, be part of this free webinar, you're an emerging artist, or if you know an emerging artist and you want to sign up for my webinar, which again, I don't have a date just yet, but I will pretty soon. All you have to do is just write me an email. Just go to jess@takethenextlevel, again, .com. jess@takethenextlevel.com. Again, just write me a quick email to Jess, the word Jess, Y-E-S, yes, at takethenextlevel.com. And if you send me an email there, all you have to do is just put the word yes on the subject line. Just say yes. And if I get a yes through email, I know that what you want is a link to the webinar. So as soon as the link comes in, I will reply to that email, send you a link so you can sign up for the Emerging Artist Success Blueprint. And it's going to be pretty awesome. If you enjoy this particular podcast, I think you will enjoy the webinar, because I plan to go deep into some of these ideas that I'm sharing with you. And you're going to help really emerging artists, move forward, invest in the things that matter, that will give you the better results tomorrow. Again, so it's going to be pretty cool. I'm very excited. I hope you sign up for it. Again, just to sign up, just go to your email and drop me an email to the email jess@takethenextlevel.com. Again, jess@takethenextlevel.com. On the subject line, just put yes. That's it. You don't need to put anything else. As long as you say yes, I will, put your name in the email list that will be going out once I select a date for this Emerging Artist Success Blueprint. And well, my friends, that's all I want to share with you today. Hope you have an amazing day. Thank you so much for listening. And maybe you're not an emerging artist, but you're curious to see what I have to say, or you are kind of thinking about these things right now. What are the things that I need to do today that will give me the best benefit tomorrow, the best results tomorrow? Check it out. I think we can all learn from each other. And I think, you will find some useful pointers there as well. So again, just write me an email to jess@takethenextlevel.com. Just in the subject line, just put the word yes, and I will be happy to send you a date. But that's coming up pretty soon, so don't forget it. And so that you can be part of this webinar. I'm not sure how many times I'm going to be running it. Maybe just a few times, but I'll make sure that I'll let you know. So thanks, my friends, for joining me today. If you found this episode to be useful, please share it with a friend. That will make me the happiest guy in the world. And now, since we are back in iTunes, if you can give me a quick review in the iTunes platform, it will also help me out to get this podcast to more people. It will really make me so happy. So please do so. Just go to iTunes, drop me there a review. How do you like this podcast? What's your favorite episode? Those kinds of things. And I will really, really appreciate it. Thank you, my friends, and I will see you at the next level.
Check out our website at www.theartistnextlevel.com, where you will find our podcast library, learn about our upcoming webinars, find resources relevant to your career, and much more. Thanks for listening to today's podcast, and we'll see you at the next level.